Why grass-fed beef? I'm sure you've probably heard that red meat is not the best thing to be eating if you want to be healthy. But there is this thing called grass-fed beef that is starting to get a lot more traction. And you may have even been wondering if that would allow you to enjoy that juicy burger you crave so dearly. If this sounds familiar, then you're in the right place because I'm here to answer that question in today's video. So let's dive on in. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to be covering the most common misunderstandings when it comes to buying beef. There are so many different labels out there that it can be incredibly confusing to know which is actually the best option for you. Then we'll cover the top 4 reasons why grass-fed beef is superior. Once you know these, you'll never go back. And finally, I will be sharing with you the best place to be buying your grass-fed beef that won't break the bank. There are more options than just the grocery stores, thank God. Let's get started. Let's get into the most common misunderstandings when it comes to buying beef. I'm talking about what is the difference between organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised, raised without antibiotics, raised without hormones. Like, there are so many different labels out there anymore. I completely understand the confusion. So I'm going to hopefully clarify what all of these different labels mean. And by the end of this, you'll know what it is you're looking for when you're out at the store or when you're ordering. Let's talk organic beef first. Now, if you find a product that is labeled organic beef, then the following is what they're meaning by that. This cow has been fed 100% organic feed and forage. So it means that there are grains potentially included. It also means that the cow has been raised on certified organic land. They also are raised in conditions that are like their natural habitat. So they're able to be outside, grazing and not being in confinement. They have been produced without any kind of genetic engineering or ionizing radiation or sewage sludge, and they have never been given antibiotics or hormones. So organic sounds like it's pretty good, but is it the same as grass-fed, grass-finished beef? Not necessarily. So let's get into those details. The biggest difference when it comes to organic versus grass-fed is the fact that a grass-fed, grass-finished cow, mind you, has purely been given 100% feed that is just forage. Okay, they've been able to go out and eat grass their whole entire life and clover and the things that cows naturally were meant to be eating. Whereas the organic cow is given feed and forage. So they're allowed to forage, but they also have been given feed that is organic by nature, but it doesn't mean that it is grain-free. And here's what you need to know. Cows don't eat grains, okay? That is where all the problems start to come in. They were meant to just forage out on the grasses and the clover and whatever else was designed for cows to consume. So literally the main and really only difference that I can tell you between organic and grass-fed, grass-finished is that cows that are grass-fed, grass-finished are 100% forage-fed, okay? The other thing is, while it should be the same, their land isn't organically certified, but these farmers who are generally raising their cattle are not altering the land that they are on. So you could assume that it's organic in its makeup, they just don't have the organic certification. And of course, these cows that are grass-fed, grass-finished are never treated with antibiotics or hormones either. So I'm going to cover a few more labels and what they mean here in a moment, but if you had to choose, it'd be grass-fed, grass-finished cow first, and then organic beef. Any of the rest of these options that I'm going to share with you personally, because of what I know happens with beef and that beef gets a bad rap, is what we do to the cows that makes beef bad for us. And the rest of these are just not near as superior as grass-fed, grass-finished. One of the ones that gets really confusing when it comes to cows specifically is pasture-raised beef. Now, pasture-raised is what you want with your chickens. That means that your chickens are never actually caged up. They're allowed to just kind of, cruise around and eat the way that they would as well. But when we're talking about pasture-raised when it comes to beef, What that means is that these cows only have access to grasslands or being out in a pasture at 120 days. That is the requirement. They have to be able to be out in a pasture 120 days. So it doesn't mean that they have year-round access to the pasture. It does mean that there is some time spent in confinement, which is just not the way that cows were intended to live. That starts getting into some of the humane types of aspects, which we're not going to delve into. Just know that that's what that means when it comes to a cow. Another common label you will find is natural. Natural means that there's nothing artificial that's been put into the meat for you, but it doesn't say anything about how the animal was raised or what they actually ate. So it allows for a lot of murkiness within that cow and what you're going to actually be putting into your system. Raised with antibiotics simply means they were raised without antibiotics. No antibiotics were put into their water or injected or in their feed. Again, this doesn't say anything about how they were raised or what they were actually eating. It also does not say anything about what else might be put into this meat through processing. Raised without hormones is kind of the same, just that they weren't given any added hormones along the way. They simply, produced the level of hormones that they were going to on their own naturally. But again, this doesn't tell you how the animal was raised or what they were actually given food-wise and what may have happened through the processing, process for you being able to get the meat on the other side. So just summary-wise, grass-fed, grass-finished is superior. Next in line would be organic. Anything else after that, honestly, I would steer clear from. Normally, I would even say I don't buy the organic beef just because they have been given potentially some grain in their feed as well. Just a real quick detail on that. Grain-fed cows do not have the same omega ratios as what grass-fed cows do. And the biggest detail that you need to know is that if a cow's been given grain, they're going to have more inflammation in their system, which you absorb when you consume their products. Inflammation is the root cause of all illness and disease, so you want to stay away from foods that cause inflammation in your body. Grain-fed cows cause inflammation. That's what you really need to know. So honestly, stick with the grass-fed, grass-finished cows. If you don't have access to that, then you can get away with the organic, but I would not do anything below the organic rating for the meat you're about to consume. Now I'm curious, does the difference between those labels make a bit more sense to you? Let me know down in the comments, what other questions do you have for me or clarifications do you have that you need? I read every comment that I get. I reply to every single one of them as well. So let me know what your questions are if you need further clarifications or if you've got it now. That makes sense. You know what you're looking for when you go to the store or wherever you're choosing to buy your beef products. Awesome. Let's get into the top 4 reasons why grass-fed, grass-finished beef is superior. Number 1, because factory feedlot-raised cows are absolute breeding grounds for bacteria and filth. Feedlots are generally pretty packed. Think of like cows being packed in like sardines. Oftentimes these cows, they don't really get bathroom breaks, so they have to relieve themselves right where they're at. And while there are drains, it's not like everything excrement-wise just magically gets washed away. So it's not uncommon for these animals to have to be standing in a foot or more of their own waste and their neighbor's waste. Whereas grass-fed cows, they're out, they can walk away. They're out in the open, out on land where they don't have to just stay in their own excrement. You can imagine the filth and the breeding ground for bacteria that actually creates. Nasty. Number 2, organic grass-fed cows are not pumped full of all the antibiotics. Why do you think cows that eat grains or are not grass-fed are needing to be pumped full of antibiotics? Well, the answer is simple. A grain-fed diet is missing a lot of the nutrients that cows would get if they were allowed to actually be out grazing the way that they do on grass and clover and other plants that basically fill up their nutrient needs and requirements. And because the grains are lacking, these cows are more prone to illnesses. And if you're sticking them in a feedlot where they're packed in and they're standing in piles of excrement and you're now in a breeding ground for bacteria, their living arrangement also makes them more prone to infection and illness. So they are injected with antibiotics to try to make up for this issue and keep them, quote unquote, healthy. Number 3, grass-fed beef actually builds up the soils, whereas conventionally raised depletes and destroys our soils. What do I mean by that? Since antibiotics eventually do work their way back into the soil, and we need these good, healthy microbes in the soil for soil to actually be rich with nourishment and, full of nutrients, when antibiotics are working their way back into the soil, it kills them all off. Ultimately, what it ends up doing is you've got soils that don't have any goodness in them left, and now you have soils that can't grow any type of sustainable food supply, whether that's just regular grasses, or if you're using this for future crops, you have soils that have been just killed off. There's no living life within these soils, which is absolutely needed in order for you to have soil that's rich and would sustain life. The grass-fed cow obviously doesn't have any of these antibiotics that it's, pooping out onto the ground. It's full of, the good bacteria plus nutrients and that break down from what they've been digesting. So ultimately this goes back into the ground, and what results is an ecosystem that is thriving. Ultimately, what this means is not only do you get healthy, nutrient-rich soils, but it's suitable for plant life. And ultimately, you've got life there that doesn't allow for erosion to happen at the least little sign of weather. And number 4, grass-fed beef is absolutely more nutritious. As I was mentioning before, grass-fed beef has healthier ratios of those really important omega-3 fatty acids for us in comparison to the omega-6s. You really could take the omega ratio profile of grass-fed beef and compare it to wild-caught salmon. It is that good for us. So that's good news for those of us who don't really enjoy salmon, like myself. You can still get omega ratios of omega-3 to omega-6s in that same ratio profile in grass-fed beef. So just to drive this home a little bit more, if you were to take a grass-fed cow, it has an omega ratio of 1 to 3. That's omega-3s to 6s. Omega-3s are your anti-inflammatory, you absolutely need these. This is what your brain's made out of. There's so many other aspects within every single cell, your heart health, all of it depends on it. And Americans are severely deficient in omega-3 fatty acids because what we find more readily in our food supply are omega-6s. Now, we do need the omega-6s, but they are more inflammatory in their makeup. So we want a less amount of omega-6 and a higher amount of omega-3s. So as I was mentioning, grass-fed beef has an omega-3 to 6 ratio of 1 to 3. That's the same as wild-caught salmon. Now, if you take a grass-fed cow and you grain finish them for even just 2 weeks, what they do, because farmers will often do this, it marbles the meat. It gives the flavor that Americans are used to, which they think is just something that's more desirable. That omega-3 to 6 ratio changes from 1 to 3 to now 1 to 20. So even though you had a grass-fed cow and they were humanely raised and no antibiotics, no hormones, eating the way that they were intended to, on last 2 weeks, you had a cow that was perfect and you messed it up. You now created a cow that was initially anti-inflammatory, super healthy for you, and now it's completely inflammatory. And this is where really red meat gets its bad rap. It's because of what we do to the cows. Grass-fed cows also just have a lot more nutrient density within their meat because they are being fed what they need in order to be optimal health. They get to pass that on to us. Now, before I get into the best places to find grass-fed beef, that's 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, that won't break your bank, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button right below this video, turn the notifications on. If I'm doing a good job for you, if you've enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. I am regularly producing videos every single week. They drop multiple times a week to help you be able to take back control of your health and live the highest quality of life possible while you're here. Because to me, that's what it's all about. So again, just click that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, give me a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll keep rocking and rolling. Where is the best place for you to buy grass-fed beef that won't break the bank? There are more options than just the grocery stores, okay? I personally have a local farmer that I use. It's actually, there's a group of them. There's 7 of them. They co-op together, and between the 7 of them, they're able to supply me with pork that is actually clean pork, humanely raised, bison, beef, chicken, pretty much filling up my freezer with anything and everything I could possibly want. They are known as farm-to-table meats. The 2 is actually a number 2. I know they ship. I'm not entirely sure how far their reach is, but you could definitely look for local farmers in your area. Generally, they are advertising, if you drive out into the country where the pastures actually are, you will see big signage like we have out here out east, but you can find them locally just by using Google. Okay, so look for local forward thinking, which is more, I believe, the way God intended farming to actually happen in the first place. Forward thinking farmers. Or one of the other groups that I've personally vetted, and there's a link down below. If you look in the description right below here and click on it so it expands, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see resources. I have put these guys in here for you. I am a fan of ButcherBox based off of everything that I can find. I use them also to fill in some of the other meats that I just need to have on hand, like ground turkey or ground chicken they've just added in. I will, if I can't get bacon from my local farmers, I will get bacon through them, and just some different cuts of meat that aren't always available. So between the 2, I don't get meat anywhere else. I use ButcherBox. There's a monthly subscription. You can change it up to whatever you want. You can have as much or as little as possible. And then they've got great deals every single month for different ads on. You can pause your subscription. You can change the date, like super flexible. You can taste the quality from both ButcherBox and my Farm to Table Meats farmers as well. Through Farm to Table, since they are local, I also will buy in bulk. There is a key to this. Like if you have enough money ahead of time, you can buy in bulk. I buy a half cow about once a year to feed ultimately 5 of us, and some carry over into my parents. That works really well. You can get the price per pound down to about $5.18, which is really cheap in comparison to buying it at the grocery store. Now, I don't know where you're living, but we have grocery stores out here by the name of Sprouts. I don't know who else Sprouts is affiliated with, but Sprouts, compared to the other grocery stores like the King Soopers, I don't even know the names of regular grocery stores because I don't go to them anymore. But Sprouts oftentimes will do sales on their meat. And from what I've just found, even if it's not on sale, they have the more affordable pricing for grass-fed beef that's been grass-fed, grass-finished as well, compared to like King Soopers or Whole Foods, or even like natural grocers. If I need something on hand and I can't get it from ButcherBox or I can't get it from Farm to Table or Sprouts, Natural Grocers is my other go-to for getting quality products. So first and foremost, I would look for a local farmer. They generally have much better pricing, and the bonus is you're getting an animal that was raised in the same environment you live in. There are different nutrient profiles in the grasses and the wild, weeds and just flowers that they eat that are more sustainable for life in the climate you're living in. This is the same thing when it goes to produce. I always try to eat what's in season locally. I support our local farmers. I really don't buy produce much from the grocery store either. I try to buy, during harvest from our local farmers. We do all of our own canning so that I can preserve what the local farmers were producing so we can get through winter and still eat what was grown right here locally. Hopefully that was helpful. And just as a special bonus for you guys for being here, you're already in the mindset of doing something to be healthier. And I just want to share with you, in case you don't know what it looks like to eat to be healthy, to eat for low blood pressure, best diabetic markers possible, least amount of inflammation. I also just wanted to give you a 7-day free full body reset meal plan that I have created. So again, go back to that description right below this video. Click on it so it expands. Before you get to the resources, you will see in there that there is a link for the 7-day full body reset meal plan. Go ahead and click on that if that sounds like something you would enjoy. This is a meal plan that was created for people who are super busy, don't really enjoy cooking. There's a grocery list included, and then all the recipes for you to make these delicious meals that you can use your grass-fed beef in as well, that will have you eating your way to better health with every single bite that you take. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you in a future episode. God bless.